So the session was called 10 Things You Can Make and Take using specifically Chat GPT or Google Gemini. And this slide, I'm not going to read what's on here, but the purposes of what we're going to be looking at today and how I see these large language models helping teachers is really just freeing up some of your time. So you're more than capable of writing lessons. You're more than capable of writing engaging content for your students. But sometimes it's hard to get those creative juices flowing. Sometimes there's just not enough time in the day. So I see AI first and foremost as being like a teaching assistant and really just being there to help you save some of your time so that then you can focus on what matters most, which is, of course, spending time directly on your students. With the two that I'm covering today, and well, this stuff comes specifically from ChatGPT or the Google Gemini, but most other AI softwares and programs and things are built on them. So these general things would apply to any type of AI, and it's just, a buyer beware type message to remember that there is errors in AI too. These models may have access to the whole World Wide Web, but there are a few things coming into play that we just need to be aware of, and always double checking, fact checking things that have been pulled out with AI to make sure that we're not seeing social bias, hallucinations, or adversarial prompts, which that's something newer to my vocabulary when I was preparing for this presentation and I was getting my information on the other two known limitations to artificial intelligence or language processing models, was that adversarial prompts were initially designed by AI developers as a way of testing AI to see if it would make mistakes. Oh, now it's asking me to let people in. And so with that, adversarial prompting has become a thing that end users do as well. So basically what it means is that there's people out there now who will intentionally create posts. There's some really deep, big nerd stuff about what they do with photos to basically trick AI. So what they are doing is trying to train AI, on incorrect information. So that's something new I learned about. If you've been in any kind of a session about AI before, you've probably heard about social bias coming into play. I used the term that, the squeakiest wheels get the grease is an old cliche. I have a feeling that the same would come into play when we're talking about all of the content on the World Wide Web. So just recognizing that, really strong issues, there certainly might be more content on one side or another of an issue. And hallucinations are when AI cannot find the right answer or they find conflicting information, and it basically just makes something up. And that's a very real thing that all of these models can do. Again, just that fair warning, making sure that we are fact checking, making sure that whatever the AI has fed us isn't just some made up stuff. So the two models, as I had mentioned, that we're going to be looking specifically at today are ChatGPT and Google Gemini. These are probably the two largest language processing models out there, and in that they're connected to the largest databases of information. Oh, excuse me. So comparatively, I've actually run all of the searches that we're going to do together today into both of them. Generally, if I am using these to create some content for me, I tend to actually run things through both. It gets you that opportunity to just do a little bit of fact checking right off the hop. Sometimes one does a better job than the other with certain things. I haven't spent enough time using either of them to pick one as a clear winner. I think for a lot of things, I do lean towards the Google Gemini over the Chat GPT. Now, I should also mention that in this specific instance, I'm talking about the free version of Chat GPT. So you can log into both of these using your work Google account. They're open for staff to sign into, of course, not students. But if you were looking at the more advanced versions of either, because Google does have a paid version as well, I would highly suggest that you do that, with your own personal account as opposed to your work one. You just don't want to tie that payment information in something that you've bought into your work account. But otherwise, to use just the free base versions, they are open for you to go ahead. So you can just Google them up easily enough to get there. This is how they describe themselves when I punched it into each, asking what they do. Chat GPT is a little bit wordier in this case, but basically, both models allow you to have an interactive conversation. You can ask them to make things for you, and then you can further refine that conversation with the chatbot to really get some amazing content out. All of the other AI softwares and websites and things that are out there are running on probably one of these forefront uh, language processing models. And again, that database is the key piece. So just in looking at a few that I know people use, I use Canva and I use their AI tools a lot too. I could do a whole session just on the magic edit within Canva. Cool thing with that one is that your students can actually access that. So that is right now the only way they can access AI with their school accounts. Trust me, kids know how to get into it anyway, so that's kind of moot. But Canva, the AI tools, they're available to students there as well. So the Magic School, Canva both post fairly clearly on their sites which AI models are running below them. Diffit I didn't find, and I looked up some others as well, and it was a little bit harder to find what was running underneath. You can run some Google searches on OpenAI, that's the Chat GPT background model, and see a lot of other AIs are using that. And then as you can see, like with Magic School, they're actually tapping into 3 different language models. So when you use a Magic School account, you're essentially using their layer over top. They're going out into these other language processing models and performing those searches for you and then formatting them on that user end. So lots of really great AI stuff out there available too, way too many to get into. So that's why we're going to just start with the basics and looking at those two today. So I popped this link in the chat. I'm going to do it again just in case anybody was late for this Padlet. So I just pulled in one rubric that I had created. Fair shortly, I'll actually close the presentation and open up my two chat bots there so that I can pull the examples I ran. I didn't want to rely on my internet. And sometimes, depending how much information you're giving these models, it can take a while to generate. So I pre-generated a whole bunch of stuff that we'll have a look at. And then that's where I'm hoping some of you will be listening with one ear and then busily using these tools to create some of these things as we go along, and also sharing on the Padlet. When you share, please be sure to add it to the appropriate section. So I've broken us down into different sections of teaching type materials that you might like to create, and that's on the Padlet. Put the grade level, subject area, if it's applicable, maybe it's a general use thing, and you could put that as well. And then in one of the comments, if you would also add in specifically what the prompt that you put in was. So I think the biggest thing with working with these large language processing models is really just understanding how to engineer good prompts. There are courses on prompt engineering. In fact, you can get a job as a prompt engineer these days at a big company. So I'm in the business of big data mining and trying to find information. Careers are coming out of being able to ask good questions of these type of models. So if we can share those examples as well, that's a really great way to help our colleagues learn that prompt engineering along with us too. Oh, I'm jumping back and forth between my screens. So the first category there on my Padlet, and I do have two different slides with a variety of suggestions for things that you could start using these language processing models to complete. So planning is the first place. We can do timetables and long range plans and unit plans, lesson plans. This stuff can be really specific. It can be more general. And as I said, with the language processing models, you always have a chance um, to refine or have the AI refine or fix or change things about what it's generated for you. So I'm going to now move that out of the way so I can pull these guys over. And I'm going to be looking here too. So I'm hoping everyone's looking now at my two chat screens. Something else I'm going to do while I'm doing this is actually put a link to this presentation so that should you want to have that open, you could open that too. Another link coming at you. Oh, I'm hoping that is the right. That should be a public view link for opening up the slides as well. And any links contained therein would work. I will pull my slides sort of out too, but I really wanted to show you guys live what this is looking like. So as I said, choose one, use them both, whatever you feel like doing. I'm going to pull up some of those searches that I've done and just walk you through a little bit of processes. So if you want to follow along, like I said, if you're already busy creating your own resources, however you choose to learn about this, I'm all in support. So both models, I've got Gemini on the left here, Chat GPT on the right. Both models have a feature where they actually save your chat. So that's something important to be aware of. If you don't want to be training the models or you don't want it to be saving your chats, you can go into the settings and make some changes there. So by default, anything that you enter into either of these is going to be saved. You're also they're going to be saving it, within their cloud, and they're using the things that you've typed in to also train the AI. So it's just important that you're aware of that. That when you're using AI, that's you are putting that information out there, and they could be retaining it and using it to train their AI, and it could possibly become then available to other users of these resources. I think just one key piece here that came up recently at a privacy session that I was a part of was that if you're using an AI tool to help with student work, say you're using it to give feedback on student writing, really being sure that we're not including personal identifying information about our students in those uploads. So say if you're copying and pasting a student's essay in to get some feedback, we're going to make sure their name is not on it. If you're using an extension that is going into like Google Documents and things like that, I would advise to use with caution. If the students' names are attached to the inputs that the AI is receiving, there is the potential of over time that AI actually building a profile on our students without us even realizing. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard about some of the sort of scarier things where people have been duped by voices that sounded exactly like loved ones, social media profiles being created. So that's one of those pieces, huge chunks of writing that are attached to personally identifying information actually is giving these resources how you talk or how you communicate or how that student communicates. So that's just a warning regarding, the student name piece and what we're putting in. You're going to copy and paste their essay without any names or just a first name. No concerns at all, but just keeping that in the back of your mind that when you're using these things, that data is going out back into that database. I see I've got one of my chats open to a rubric right here. So I'm actually just going to jump back to the list. You can see Google Gemini a little bit different. My previous chats are all hidden away, and I have to reopen them a little bit more to open here too. I want to go all the way back to the beginning because we started with schedule. So punching in the schedules, you can see I was hoping that one of them would put it in a chart for me. Just before I closed out, you could see the Gemini rubric here was actually in a chart form. Chat GPT does not do that, at least not in its free version. But they will give you, so anything that's meant to go into like a chart, it'll list it out like you sort of for this. But just to kind of look and see how they did very different things with the exact same prompt. So Gemini, here on the left, so this is where Gemini would have won for me on this one, simply because it knew to block up double periods together. And maybe I don't want them all blocked this way, but when I compare it off against the Chat GPT one, where there's, language arts in the morning, then again in the afternoon, I know myself as the language arts teacher would have preferred that double block. Of course, this is just a suggestion. And then these are also the part where I could come down here and say, please make all, actually, I'll do it on the Chat GPT side. So put all language arts periods in the morning, and it'll go ahead and recreate that schedule for me. So anything you go and make, you see something you don't like, you want to have specific adjustments, that's the cool thing about these language processing models, is that you are actually having a conversation. It can understand what you're asking it to do and then make those adjustments for you. So you can see it's gone and moved language. It took that very literally. It put language first thing in the morning every day. So that was that. I'll just pop up my next little one in the list, and Google's going to be trickier with this. So my next planning thing, I think on the slide, was about writing a unit plan. So again, same input for both of these. Now I copied and pasted these inputs right out of the curriculum from the Learn Alberta website. So this specifically, I think, is grade 6 computer science in the new science curriculum. So that's on the new Learn Alberta site. I did do some prompts for other grade levels and subject areas too, out of the old programs of studies as well. If working with the old programs of studies brought back some flashbacks of my time in the classroom and how hard it is to copy and paste out of those PDF documents. Likely you already have a friendlier version of your curriculum somewhere. But what I found with both of these models is I just copied and pasted, and I didn't clean it up at all. And it still did a pretty decent job. So the inputs are really big at the top. And then again, here is each version's plans for that unit plan. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom of these. So just to highlight a couple other things, and maybe it's a couple differences between every time either of these generate a response for you. They really appreciate feedback. Of course, you're training the model by saying this is good or this is bad. So I don't necessarily always use the thumbs up when I'm happy with the response, but I will use the thumbs down if I've been given a poor response, especially when I'm doing image generation, which I will talk about a little bit later also. So you can, this one, ChatGPT is only giving you the option to give it a bad response. Back on the Google one, they have some just quick toggles. So that just I know that's probably really tiny, especially if you're watching on just a normal size screen. But this little slider switch looking icon here gives you some just real quick ways to modify this response. So if you want it to be any of these things, you could just click that easily. Of course, you can type more specific changes into the prompt box. This gives me the option to export to docs. So probably another reason that I would be a favorite of Google Gemini is the ability to export to docs. Later, when we look at that rubric that I had it create, it gives you the chance to export that out to Google Sheets as well. I haven't had an opportunity to try to get any kind of other charts created, so I challenge you to see if Gemini does any other kind of charts in a Sheets format, but it definitely did put that rubric in a Sheets format for me. So if I'm happy with this, I want to pull this unit plan out. I could copy and paste, of course, also, but Google gives me this option that was through the little share button there again to export it. And then I could also take it right to Gmail. So if I was using this to draft an email, I could do that directly from here as well. And then there's a quick copy option. So you don't have to drag and click the whole thing. You can just copy all of the content that it created right there with that little button as well. So back over just on the Chat GPT side, something Chat GPT has here that we see Google does not is a read aloud button. So I could have this read aloud. They also have that quick copy button. Regenerate just means to run that prompt again and give me a new response. And of course, that thumbs down to let them know if we're not happy with it. So again, this one's not going to automatically create that Google Doc, but I can quickly copy it here and then paste it into a Google Doc. So this works the same for a lesson plan. I've again just grabbed some, I think these were in the procedures, skills and procedures column, and a part of, I think, again, I'm looking to seeing abstraction, so I'm sure it's grade 6. Oh yes, there it says right there, grade 6. And then asked it to design this lesson plan. Again, the more details you provide in your prompts, I would actually even say that today, some of my prompts definitely weren't specific enough. The more specific information you can give, the better. And I dumped whole units of curriculum in there, so there isn't too much information. Just sometimes it will take a little bit longer to generate if you are giving it a ton of information. And then here is again, you can see I copied and pasted right out of this. I just went with the big ideas in the whole grade 5 science, and then asked it to build me a long range plan for this grade 5 science unit. So again, not that you're not perfectly capable of doing these things, but sometimes it's even just nice to see it another way or get some inspiration. So that's our long range plans. It gives them interesting names based on what I copied and pasted in. So if you haven't already, done one of your own, please take a minute to do that now. Nobody's posted anything in the Padlet yet, but I don't. That's okay too. And if you're not sure how to do that, I'm happy to help. But it's pretty easy. You can just hit the plus button and then add a link to something if you happen to have like a Google Doc in there. And in fact, if you click on the more, I think it is, I'm just going to get in there and have a look. If you click the little plus 12 it shows, it'll actually let you attach files right out of your Google Drive, which is how I attached this rubric. And I will definitely populate anything that I did in here that I think might be useful to others as we go along. I'm just gonna see. So yeah, here's an example of where I pulled from the program of studies for grade 10, I think, and asked it to create a unit plan. So it's got all those little abbreviations and things that they have within the program of studies. I didn't clean any of that up. I just pasted it right in. And it came up with a pretty good little unit plan there too. All right, now pop this out. Again, everybody's quiet on this Friday afternoon. So further in planning, I already showed you the course outline. You can ask these models to write out instructions for you. And this is that part where adding in, at a particular grade level or at a particular age level, you can get this differentiation piece handled as well. And it also gives you the ability to take things that were maybe designed for a grade different than what you teach and quickly adapt them for your little guys. If you teach younger students, or your big guys, if you teach older students. I have presentations on here now. If you use Chat GPT or Google Gemini on their own to create a presentation, you're just going to get a set of instructions for what your slides should look like. So it will give you sort of the verbiage content and then describe what the visuals on that slide should look like. I would always just go to Canva Magic Design if I wanted to have AI do a presentation for me. So what Canva is not as great at is the content. So actually this presentation that I'm using today, I'm pretty sure I punched in, create a presentation about AI. It pulled some appropriate theming, but the content that was included on the slides in that draft presentation that it made was pretty not actually relevant. So it really just blocks out for you and then tells you, put some good points about artificial intelligence here. But it's super handy to quickly create a whole slides presentation that's all themed with everything tying in together that then you can just go in and sort of build your content on top of. So like I say, if you need some ideas for the content that should be on those presentations, then definitely go to Chat GPT or Google Gemini. But if you're looking for the stylizing of the presentations, go straight to Canva. It'll do its thing for you. Differentiation. This, I think, is a really, really important key piece. And maybe it does belong in planning, but it also probably belongs throughout the other topics that I've broken things down into today, because differentiation is happening all the time. And I mean, this can be just individualization as well. Being able to use a model like ChatGPT or Google Gemini to quickly change a reading level, or to provide some more questions when a student has exhausted all of the available ones that you have on a particular topic or concept, and just being able to get some more. It understands Bloom's taxonomy. So if you're looking for, higher level thinking things, you again can be as specific. And then I am going to close up my little window one more time and go back to my guys behind and pull up that example. So I did find a copy of the Rocking Horse Winter short story. Funny story, I don't know if people cover that anymore, but it just, when I was trying to remember my own high school experience a million years ago, for some reason that short story popped into my mind. I Googled it up and I managed to find a version online. I'm looking like I didn't save it in this one, possibly. So let's just continue with the Chat GPT. So I didn't read it after the fact to see how accurate it is. I was trying to get as many examples created as possible, so I'm not going to speak to how good it is or if there needed to be some changes made, but just visually you can see there was quite a bit of text in that story that I copied and pasted in, and then ChatGPT went ahead and broke it down into a much, I scrolled right by it, a much shorter amount. So if I wanted to break something down to as low a level as possible, I could even ask it to pull out bullet points or to summarize this information. And it does a really great job of that kind of stuff too. Oh, somebody wants to say something. Mary Lynn.
And so to put it onto the Padlet, like how best would I capture something to share it? Do you know what I mean? Like instead of making a screenshot, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or even just like, depending what it is, just copy and paste it into the part where it says write something beautiful.
Okay, I did, and it didn't say, like, it doesn't hold the prompt that I put in, but I don't think so.
Well, or maybe if you put, do you want to put the content in the write something beautiful and then publish it? And then if you could put the prompt in as a comment.
Okay, I'm
Oh,
just,
there it is.
I was just looking for ways to, I mean, this, I
Oh,
would shorten this up, but to write IPPs.
that's fantastic, because that's not even actually on my slides
Mhm.
presentation, Mary Lynn. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So 100% writing goals for IPPs. And so if you're looking at the Padlet, Mary Lynn's posted that there too, which I love. No pressure, but come on, people, let's share something. So continuing right along then, I'm going to grab my window. This is a tech tricky day with all this stuff. Oh, look what that did. Flashed straight out on me. There it is. Without further ado. So the next big category I have is instructional materials. And this is where things got really out of hand, because I couldn't stop thinking of things. I had a few different articles open with suggestions of ways that teachers could use these models for creating some instructional materials for students. This is where that differentiation piece can come in. So maybe it's something you already have and you're just asking Chat GPT or Google Gemini to make it better, or make it at a different level, or add to it, or whatever. So here are, I have 3 slides of instructional materials. So this is the first 5, looking at, reading passages, writing prompts, essay, discussion topics, poems, speeches, and songs. I have some fun examples of those. I'm creating a quick glossary or vocabulary list out of a large piece of text. I'm just going to jump through these 3 slides before I go back to my 2 models and show you some stuff. We can ask them to create flashcards. This one, I will say, is the same as the slides presentations. It's just going to tell you what should be on each side of the flashcard. I recommend an app called Quizlet if you want to make digital flashcards for students. It actually has AI in it now too, and can create those up for you easily. But again, if you're looking for that content, I need 10 more. Definitely, they can give you those ideas. I've got some really fun math problems I want to share. We can ask it to create role plays and choice boards and close passages. Science experiments, stations for phys ed, or other ideas for phys ed or any of your subjects. Ask it to make up games based on certain things. Ask it to write us a play that includes a particular number of students that meets the exact makeup of the kids that are going to be in the play. And then even right down to asking it to create music. Again, it's not going to give you an audio file song that you can play. It can generate some music notes just using letters, but it can also create really great playlists and things for you too. So there is all of the things that I just could think of that we might want to make using the language processing models for students. And I'm just going to, and I'm definitely not going to necessarily show all of these. If there is something that you see on my list that you're like, hey, I want to see what that looks like, pop it in the chat and or unmute and let me know, and I'll definitely click on it. Other than that, I'll just kind of look at some of these going backwards. I want to try and get into the same place on these. So this was an example of asking it to write out some instructions for me. I picked linear equations. I would need these instructions if I was going to try and solve a linear equation, probably. So again, math teachers in the room, if it's not accurate, that's not in my capabilities. Oh, I want to pull up one here. So sometimes when you use Google Gemini, and this would be something that I really like about it as well. Oh yeah, here we go. Is that they've actually linked a source at the bottom. And so sometimes, depending on the content, Google will bring you back where that information came from, which gives you that opportunity to sort of go out and and check on this. It also should say somewhere to Google it. Maybe it's in drafts. Oh, I'll highlight this also. Another thing that Google has the ability to do is to actually show you. I didn't want him reading it. I see there's their speaker. I missed that, so it reads aloud. Google Speaker is at the top of the generated content, while as the Chat GPT one is at the bottom. Um, this drafts thing is a cool thing in Google. So it doesn't just produce one iteration. And so if you click that little drop down, it'll show you the other drafts that it's created for the exact prompt that you've given it. So you can actually look through here and have some choice in what you're choosing. And almost all searches I've done in Google, it does do that. I kind of think the paid version of Chat GPT does as well. Which if anybody has any questions about that, I am going to talk about that in my other session this afternoon, actually. But I do use it on a personal account. If you're wondering about the differences and we have some time at the end, I can definitely touch on that as well. So those drafts. Yeah, and so I feel like Google used to somewhere really obviously tell you to Google it. But if you get into sort of their main homepage, if you get into the setting pages or the about pages, they do always recommend that you fact check your stuff with them as well. When we're copying and pasting though the content directly out of the curriculum, I think generally it should be pretty correct. So that's some instructions. What else have I got in here? We already looked at that guy. Here's an example of what the yeah, I'm just reading the chat now, Aaron. I'm really curious what AI they're using. If you ever happen to come across that, because it does a really great job of breaking stuff down, and I think it's completely free too. It's in my next session. It's made the list for the A to Z apps. So there's what it does on a presentation, right? So it's like slide one, introduction. If I need help with the content, this stuff can do it. Otherwise, I've still got a lot of work ahead of me. Once I've run that search, we looked at this guy. I'm gonna change on my. Oh, hey, there's the Rocking Horse winner summary. It called it child's obsession leads to tragedy. I'm actually just curious to have a look at the. Oh, see, so there's a huge difference. I did not ask it to put it in point form and summarize it, but Google Gemini broke it right down into just a few bullet points. So in this case, I asked, is that this one? Oh, oh, those are bigger. So I'm looking at this Gemini one right now. I had put create a narrative passage, and in my mind, I was thinking like a fictional narrative, a story. And then it actually came up with fantastic content about the concepts. These were copied and pasted right out of the curriculum. I just generally use a colon, so I have my action statement, create whatever with the grade level, put that colon in there, and then just paste everything in as ugly as it comes in with the paste, and it's good. So then I think this one, I asked it, I was like, well, I wanted a fictional story. So then it went ahead and regenerated this as a fictional story based on those contents. So I'm creating just reading passages based on almost anything. Really easy, just punch that in. And again, you can copy and paste curriculum outcomes that you're trying to meet right in with it as well. Asking it to create some essay topics for me. Again, I'm copying and pasting in those curriculum pieces. So giving it some content and then letting it go to town with what it's going to write. I get asked over here, 10 writing prompts for grade 9s to learn about creating a news article. So there's some options I can offer out to my students. Oh, this one's fun. I want to pull these. I would kind of giggled when I talked about poems and songs and things. One day when I was actually waiting in the queue for Chat GPT, it was listing off ways, ask about figurative language, or tell me about figurative language like a pirate. And a whole bunch of different examples like that. I had tons of fun running all these things and seeing what it said, but just a different way to create some content. I know I did a session last year about AI and talked about the rap song. If you asked students, if you gave students a rap song about figurative language and asked them to perform it, by the time they memorized and performed that rap song, they would definitely understand figurative language. So it can just really create content in a hurry. So here's I love this, explain figurative language like a pirate. And it starts out, avast ye landlubbers, gather around and listen close, for I be teaching ye the secret, etc., etc. So if you want to pull out your best pirate voice, or just present something to your students in a fun way, I'd love to see some of your fun examples. Google did not know how to write a presidential speech. I think ChatGPT did okay. There's ChatGPT's pirate. Oh, yes. As I stand before you today, I'm reminded of the incredible power of language is not merely a tool for communication. So there's a presidential speech. I guess I should have put in prime minister's speech because it does say, may God bless the United States of America at the end. So fun things. Again, we can copy in that direct content right out of the curriculum. We know for sure it's also about that, and also it's maybe fun. And this actually is less fun and more useful. Same content, creating a glossary of terms. So here, I actually want to get to is that glossary. ChatGPT did a much better job of the political glossary of terms. So on the left here is the Google Gemini. So there it is. Oh no, I'm not at the glossary. There it is. That's the content. That's why that didn't look right. So again, you can see I copied in the whole social topic here, and then just asked it to pull out and make that vocab list. Again, I haven't looked at this to see if it's perfect. Will it be? Probably not. As a teacher, there's probably some things on here I don't think belong, or maybe there's things it missed or I want to edit. But again, I'm just a real quick way to get a place for me to start rather than just starting on my own. I think I might like the numbered list a little bit better. I mentioned already about the flashcards. I don't know if I find this even helpful. I find an image of a zebra and it tells you to look at royalty-free images of zebras and whatever. Well, I'll tell you, go to Canva because all the images are royalty-free and there'll definitely be a zebra there. So it's not going to help me make good flashcards, that's for sure. But definitely that glossary turned out really well. Here's another, or maybe the same content. Sort of a user thing. See, there's that zebra. Google Gemini will create images. ChatGPT will not. Not ChatGPT 3.5, which is the free version. If you pay for their scaled up version, ChatGPT 4, that comes with Dolly, which is their amazing image generator. It's actually really amazing. But Google Gemini does create images right within its base free form. And as you can see here, I'm like, create an image of a zebra with Z's coming from it. And it did a pretty decent job of that. Canva also will generate images without having to pay. Oh, here's my math playoff. challenge questions. So create 10 math problems about the NHL playoffs. I didn't have a chance to fact check these ones either, but one did catch my attention where they definitely had some correct information about the Oilers. So I thought that was cool that it's gone out and pulled in something that's obviously a pop thing happening here right now. But it also, at least Google Gemini pulled back some actual real mathematical numbers too. So we're dealing with real stuff. And I did not put a grade level on these. But that's again where I'll just do Google. Change it to say make them for now for grade 3. And you can see right at a glance, much less words in it, and I can tell already that the questions are much simpler, that we're looking at much less complicated math. The other had us averaging how many people were in Rogers Place. That's not grade 3 for sure, but this stuff looks pretty decent. Nothing, if anything, maybe a bit low. So I'm seeing some counting. But again, this is where you could really, so I didn't put any specific math concepts in my prompt, but I certainly could have. And I also could have provided it examples. So I could have said, you know, create addition questions that look like this, or area questions that are a maximum of this, or only deal with whole numbers. So just remembering that prompt engineering, the more specific you are, the better results you're going to get. Ask it to create choice boards. All right, I can see my time is getting quick, and I've got a couple more things I want to definitely do. So I'm going to pop that back in. Advance us to formative and summative assessments. So could be lumped in with those instructional materials, but if you noticed an absence of things like question generation and stuff, that's because it was on the formative and summative category. So I've got these 3 big here, and the prompts that I used to create some things are included here as well. And then beyond rubrics, checklists, questions, these checklists could be for you. They could also be generated to give to students. Questions, again, I mentioned earlier that you can ask for, you know, deeper level types of questions, and you can be really specific about what kinds of questions, like multiple choice and such. And then further to that, you know, creating examples or exemplars for your students, taking their writing and actually pasting it into one of these engines and asking it to help you create some feedback. Again, you're the professional, you know, at the end of the day what that feedback is, but sometimes just a little bit of creative prompting, the AI might be able to help you say it in a different way or find that positive for you, whatever. Again, as a teaching assistant, it's certainly not replacing you, but it can help you save some time. So remember not to have the student names in, but if you go ahead and dump some student writing in there and ask it to analyze it, it will generate that student feedback for you. You could take a piece of writing from the beginning of the year, then a piece of writing from later in the year, and ask the AI to compare it for you. And then, you know, use it to create, I talked about checklists on the last page, but other sorts of self-assessment tools that your students can use when they're preparing for those big projects and or final exams and such. Because I did want to leave the last 15 minutes or so for questions or any sharing that anybody wanted to do, I'm just going to jump to my last categories. Beyond in the classroom, you can definitely have AI help you with those professional growth plans when fall comes out. Trying to figure out how to word an email to a parent, and you want to make sure that it has the correct tone. You could write the email and put it in there and ask the AI to change the tone or to give you feedback on the tone. You could tell the AI the situation you're trying to handle and ask it to draft that email up for you. So I've actually found it very useful in helping me word some communications. I mentioned summarizing earlier. I just pulled a random, it was actually an assessment for learning website that had probably 6 pages of content, and asked it to summarize it for me, and it gave me a nice little summary of that professional learning, all in bullet points, like, so that I know what that article is about, even if I want to know if I want to dive deeper. That's another way to use it. And just looking at the chat again too. Yeah, the high school actually brought Brisk. I don't like Brisk because it jumps up and interferes with all my stuff and it makes my Google admin console unusable. So I didn't look at which one that one's running on in the background, but there is a teacher at the comp who's like been using Brisk, I think, for like a year or however long it's been around. I don't know anything about it. She's an expert. I think might even be doing a session at some point. I just checked it out long enough to, like I said, see that it interfered with some of my stuff too much. And then again, same with that, that is going into Google Docs, which means personal identifying information about our students is being shared with it. So I would just recommend possibly using with caution, because that's that whole piece that I said in the beginning about, we're putting our students, how they communicate, the way they talk into these models attached to their name. If someone took to it to try and target them and ran that name on a Google search, they might find that stuff. So just always be careful if it's going to be attached to student stuff. Images, I already touched on saying, unfortunately, ChatGPT doesn't do them on its own. Google Gemini does not a bad job of image creation. Biggest reason for creating images using AI is simply for publication and just making sure we're not going to get into any copyright infringement areas. You're just creating content for your students. You don't really need to be worried about copyright as long as you're not publishing things out to the world. But sometimes you can spend a lot of time looking through Google or maybe an image database like in Canva or something like that, looking for just that perfect image. Like, you want a bunch of kids looking down into a hole with a ladder coming out of it, and you just can't find the exact right image. That's where AI can really help you, because you tell it exactly what you want and it can come up with some really cool images for you. Google Gemini does not make people yet. Chat GPT, the paid version, does. And so I said, here's what money gets you. So Google Gemini, when I asked it to create an illustration of a plant cell, it gave me this thing. And if there's science teachers here, maybe you recognize this as something specific. When I asked, of course, Chat GPT, the free version, does not do images, so I just get a message right here saying, sorry, I can't do images. But when I put it into the paid version of GPT-4, it did indeed come up with a pretty a decent image of a plant cell. Again, I stand corrected if it is inaccurate, because I am not personally or professionally familiar. But I do have to say, if I had to vote one for the image creation, GPT-4 is good. My next session, I'm going to talk about a bunch of other AI tools. They come up in the A to Z. And I did refrain from talking about other ones in this session. And just because, like I said, the whole point of this session was to look at what's beneath the mask. All of these other great AI things run on probably one of these two models. There are a few others that are in the game as well, and they might actually leverage both models. In fact, I would say the best ones probably do, because as I mentioned too, I almost always run things through both as well. I talked about Canva already. This is what Canva gave me when I asked it to same prompt about a plant cell. I haven't found that it does as good at images for sure as that Chat GPT paid version does, but it always gives you four to choose from, and most things it can do, and it can create some people for you, which Google Gemini does not do yet that I'm aware of. And then last, but certainly not least, because this is the most important, these tools can be used also to help you in your personal life. You can't decide, how you should paint your new bathroom. You can go to AI and punch in, like, I like these certain colors. Give me a color palette that would look nice in my small space. You can punch in details about your family and ask it to create you a meal plan for the week. I've done this. Then I have to punch in, oh, my kid doesn't eat this list of things. And then it goes back and redoes the meal plan and recreates it without that. From there, you can ask it to create you the shopping list. Chat GPT breaks it up into grocery store category or aisle categories for you, sort of. So to try and help make that easier for you, ask it to plan you a road trip, create a to-do list, or just to give you a great relaxing movie playlist for the weekend. It can help you out to save some time and really to save some thinking. When I'm feeling like I've just been thinking too much, that's when I tend to go to Chat GPT and get a little bit of help. Just getting that creative inspiration, it helping me brainstorm some new things. I find it really useful.